And we are back. Thank you for sticking with us today. This is tnoozLIVE at Arival, presented by Resdy. We're here at the Link Hotel in Las Vegas, and I'm pretty sure it's probably sunny outside.
It is sunny outside. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's probably
Vegas?
a beautiful day. Yeah, right. And then in here, you'll never know.
Now, you know, that's you got to get trapped in here when you get into the particular hotels and convention areas. No clocks, no time, so you walk outside. I mean, Vegas is sunny 24/7.
And you're from Vegas. Well, introduce yourself to the audience real quick.
Hi there. I'm Robert Graff. I'm the Corporate Vice President of Sales Marketing for the Papillon Group. So airplanes, helicopters, bus tours to the Grand Canyon, that's our specialty, around 6,000 people a day.
So 6,000 people a day within Vegas specifically, right? So you're kind of...
well, we do flights over the Vegas Strip. We have our helicopters and airplane tours that can take you up to the Skywalk, the Glass Bridge on the west rim of the Grand Canyon. We fly to the south rim. We're up in the Grand Canyon National Park, Page, Lake Powell, you name it, whitewater rafting, all different modes of transportation. So close to around 700 employees, deliver around 6,000 people to the Grand Canyon every day, actually.
And how long have you been doing this? Or not you, or just you and the company?
You know, the company's been kind of interesting. So the airline just celebrated around a week and a half ago 90 years and founded aerial sightseeing over the Grand Canyon National Parks. The helicopter company, Papillon, celebrated around 2 years ago its 50th anniversary. So,
whoa, so 90 and 50.
90 and 50, so 140 years of sightseeing, aerial sightseeing in the Grand Canyon.
So I'm a super aviation geek.
Right.
I am a total like airplane nut. So 90 years ago, what were you flying? Like biplanes?
No, they had, believe it or not, they had the 4 tri-motors operating.
Wow.
So they had the 4 tri-motors. Right now, the 4 tri-motors are primarily in museums and everything, but what you have right now, you've got around 55 helicopters doing sightseeing tours. You've got around 25 airplanes. They're like de Havilland Twin Otters and Cessna Caravans, and then you know, a fleet of coaches to get people around. And no matter where you want to go in the national parks, there's a Papillon or a Scenic Airlines or a Grand Canyon helicopter solution for you.
That's amazing. So 700 employees, 6,000 people a day, but that's just to Grand Canyon. So how many
That's
people?
Just to Grand Canyon.
How many people are you serving a day? Guests?
I would say if you take it, for example, if you're taking peak time, you're looking around 6,000 to 6,500 a day, and then when you kind of move into winter time, like when we'll start slowing down, I would say around November, December, and you're probably taking that down to around 1,000, 1,500 a day. So the tourists are all in, heavy international.
Yeah.
So 87% of our passengers come from overseas.
And China is number one, I'm guessing?
No, I got to give credit to our British people. You know, our British market is one of our #1 markets. The Chinese are booming. The Indian market is the next up-and-coming market. That and China are moving forward. But you know, you got to thank. You know, we got these visa waiver programs in place, so that kind of helps European business coming over. But Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South America. So, you know, I'm lucky to be selling Las Vegas and the 7th wonder of the world, the Grand Canyon. So you can't go too wrong right there.
Why do you think it's you said 83%?
Yeah, 87% is international.
So is that because people have already seen the Grand Canyon? Is it, you know, why so high?
Well, I think, you know, we Americans don't yet realize that the 7th wonder is in our backyard. So it's like, I suppose, if you were going to Paris, you're going to go visit the Eiffel Tower, or you're going to be going to all the different attractions. But for international visitors, they're coming here, they want to see, okay, what is the 7th wonder? And this is what we have. It's the only one in the United States. So I think that's one of the big benefits that we have. So Americans still don't know it exists.
No, that's a tough one. I don't know if I'll touch that one.
They'll drive to Grand Canyon. They'll drive to Grand Canyon.
So do you market? Talk to me about how you're marketing then specifically to international visitors, or is this kind of organic, local? How does that happen for you?
It's I'd say for us it's around close to 90% of our tours are pre-booked, pre-ticketed. So our websites are in 9 different languages. We work very closely with a lot of travel automation companies, be it Expedia, Get Your Guide, Valtra, all the different travel companies actually here who are exhibiting at this show right now are a way of getting our information out. And of course, you know, you've got a lot of organic people who are booking online. They're booking through OTAs. They're booking through all the different types of travel distribution. So there's around close to 2,500 clients at all different levels of the travel distribution system.
And by clients, it's people have my inventory and are selling my inventory. Is
Actually, no, we're a lot more automated. So you take, for example, we have our own API connections, around 45 API connections that feed into distribution services. Our products are very much dynamic pricing. For example, if you want, leaving at 7 o'clock in the morning may be different than 9 o'clock, may be different. It's, supply and demand, variable pricing, very much like the airlines and hotels. We've actually moved that into sightseeing. So that's what kind of makes us a bit unique and different. So if you plan in advance, you might get special better rates. If you're waiting very much last minute, just like the airlines, you might be charged a higher price to try to go the night before on a particular tour.
We spoke with Jose. He is from Amigo Tours, and he mentioned that they actually have, I think it was 5 people on a revenue management team.
Right.
And honestly, this is the first kind of super connection I've made to the way that these can kind of happen. And so, tell me about how long ago did you start doing dynamic pricing, and how's that going?
Well, I'd say when we moved into dynamic pricing, we were kind of one of the first probably to move into the attraction side in dynamic pricing. My fellow, only just recently did I hear the large theme parks started introducing tiered pricing at the gates, for example, Disney and Universal. But in our case, we had limited inventory. You're talking helicopters, you're talking 6 seats per helicopter, even though there's around 55 of them to fill. You also got airplanes, so our capacity is somewhat limited. It's not like you just open the gates and you let more people in. There's time limitations, and so what we started doing, there's certain departure times that you want to fill, and what happens in Vegas, people show up, maybe they don't want to get up too early in the morning, but you got the sunrise flights, you got the sunset flights. You've got the people who just want to have breakfast and then want to kind of leisurely get out after maybe they've been partying a bit too long in Vegas.
As it happens,
and they want to take an 11, 12 o'clock flight.
Right.
So, we kind of price those subject to supply and demand, really.
That's fantastic. I think that's so cool. I wonder how, you guys are a certain, Amigo Tours is big, you guys are big. How far down the chain is, if I'm a, say, mid to small size supplier, can anybody do this? Like, is this just something that you could do more manually, or is dynamic pricing something you do as you get bigger?
Well, I think if you start getting involved in the business and you have a set amount of inventory, I think one of the, there's some great switch companies. For example, Resdi is a great company where we've connected to them and they're able to get our dynamic pricing into the OTAs, into the different things. So you can choose certain suppliers that will be able to feed that pricing information, and then what you're really doing is creating partnerships where we're finally in a position where we might sell a Grand Canyon tour for $100, but on days that there's so much demand because there's so many people taking tours, you might be able to flex that price a lot higher. So that's where you're working with the travel companies and partnerships to be able to improve the revenue picture from both ends.
How many partners, or vendors kind of, and also distribution partners would you say you guys have? Do you have a number of just how the broad scope?
I would say on the wholesale distribution side, you're probably looking around 2,000 to 2,500. And then when you're looking at on the affiliate distribution systems, you're probably running another 2,500 affiliates that are promoting and booking our particular products. Our main players, of course, are the Viators, the Expedias, the Get Your Guides, the Veltras. Those are the ones who you're seeing that growth in business, and they're expanding our distributions into maybe some countries and markets that we haven't really focused on, and maybe certain distribution funnels that we weren't reaching. For example, if you're already pre-booking a room or a flight, what a perfect opportunity to add on an activity. So that's an audience that we may not have access to.
And that's why you go with partners.
And that's where you go with the partners, exactly, yeah. They complement your existing distribution networks.
And how do you feel, on the business models of certain partners, you have like kind of a pay per booking, and then also you have flat fees, there's different approaches. As a supplier, are you agnostic to business models, or do you think very carefully about how people are taking their commissions or their money from you?
You know what? We have so many different models on how you work with. I think in our key, the way we look at it is one more passenger that we didn't have before. And so you kind of maybe look at the funnel distribution systems. When are they coming in to making those decisions to purchase your products? We value people who plan in advance. We don't want to be ending up with 6,000 seats to fill the day before in Las Vegas. So you need that advanced booking, you need those tour operators, you need those OTAs, and then really when you move into town, you need the local desks and hotels and concierge who are filling certain seats that you need filled. So it's kind of a layered approach to our marketing distribution systems.
Sounds immensely complicated.
It's a lot of fun.
Right, you think it's fun?
It is fun. It's a blast, absolutely.
I think it's like a differentiator, right? It's like maybe you don't want to be a supplier if it's if you think it's too complicated or
no. You know what? I think everybody puts so much attention into like hotels and airlines, and what they fail to realize that attractions, all these tours and activities that you do, we are the reason why you come to a destination. I'm sorry, you're not going to Orlando if it isn't to see Disney or Universal and everything like that. You're not coming to Vegas if you're not going to be going to the Grand Canyon or flying over the Las Vegas Strip. So there's a lot to do, and it's kind of getting exciting that we are finally getting our space within that travel industry pecking order. So that's what gets exciting for me.
And that's, a question I've been asking everyone who's come through so far. The Arival event, obviously, is the first year.
Yeah.
And it is something that I think as a journalist that it was missing.
Right.
There hasn't been a place where just y'all can hang out.
Now, that's actually what happened. So what we would do, and you would see a lot of us in the attraction business, we'd show up at all different types of events. So you'd show up at a hotel event, to this event, and a DMO event, and you're running around, but there was really no place to call home. And because we're such a diverse group, you name it, from ticket stalls to haunted house tours to wedding chapels to sightseeing trips, we're all a big group. And so it's very hard to categorize us, and we've never really had a platform where we could all come together.
And so that makes it fun.
And that's what makes it fun. So you now have a chance to be able to speak with fellow colleagues about problems that we face, that not hotels face, we as attractions have our unique problems, our unique challenges, and to hear from peer-to-peers, to hear that there are technology providers that can answer some of these questions is what gets it exciting. It's really the year of attractions.
I like that. So problems and challenges, do you find that, is it vendor selection is a key one? What are some of these problems and opportunities? Of course, every problem is an opportunity when you solve it.
Yeah.
What are you seeing and what are you feeling either from other vendors or yourself kind of the next year or so? What are your most pressing challenges?
Well, most pressing challenges is, in our case, we're heavily reliant on international visitors. So, we want to diversify our base. We want to be able to access that American consumer a lot more. We want to expand our distributions. So, we're working, you got to have the tools in place to be able to make it easy. So for us, we believe that paying in your own currency is extremely important. We believe in having our content information available in 9-10 languages is critical for you to be able to make it easier. We've seen huge changes in how consumers and accounts are interacting with us. There's the language barrier. But it's amazing how many people will kind of email you or live chat with you because they know they don't have to pick up the phone and they just wanted to ask a question, but they realize maybe their English is not that great. And for us, it's not that easy to find staff that speak every language in our call centers. But
you do.
But we do.
So you do localize with local call centers.
We do localize with local call centers. Actually, we're fighting. You're trying to, for example, we've done a lot of tests where we're accessing, for example, a Chinese business, and the Chinese business needs additional help. So you do have counter personnel who actually speak the language, but maybe not available all times a day. But what we have done is, we've connected our WeChat accounts. We're even using local ads that feed certain phone numbers to people who can actually talk to you in Mandarin or in Cantonese and be able to answer your particular questions. So we're trying to connect the dots using old technology, new technology, and trying to keep that information fluid on how we can make it easier for consumers to book our services.
Payments to me is a very interesting barrier sometimes.
Yeah.
I was just in Shanghai at the Travel Daily conference, and,
right.
and honestly, it's the first time I've really kind of dove really deep into China, and especially with the sophistication of payments in that country is amazing. I mean, we're behind, like immense. You can't even pay with cash in a cab. You have to have a QR code.
No, exactly. And it's kind of funny. I'd been working the Chinese market for a good 10 years, and I really caught myself off guard, and I hadn't been back in around 5 years, and went there and a local taxi dropped me off, and I realized that my apps that I use in the United States didn't work. I had no idea where I was. I was in the wrong location and everything. And then you start, really, when you start looking at it from what are the tools, the social media tools they use, how do Chinese, and it's a really young demographic as well. So you're starting to see, how they're ordering things from their homes that are being delivered Amazon style. Way before even Amazon got started here in the United States. They've been doing this for several years. So WeChat, huge. Payment gateway systems that you're using, are pretty amazing. I mean, they have their own credit card. We in the United States, we rely on credit cards. Well, they're a lot more into their banking system and their debit cards, and being able to pay by WeChat Pay, being able to use different forms of payments that we're not prepared to accept. But you're starting to see the change. You're starting to see the beyond the MasterCard and Visa logos. You're starting to see other logos start to show up across the United States in a lot of attractions, and that's good news.
It drove me crazy just the other day or last night. I was trying to get something from the grocery store downstairs here,
right.
And she wanted my ID.
Yeah.
And I didn't have it. I was like, I have my credit card. She's like, I need your ID. I was like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like this world's like, I should just be able to pull out my phone and pay. Like, what do you need?
Do they really check
it's
your credit cards?
It's $7.
Right.
So is it really that much?
Well,
so that's kind of a pain point because I didn't go back.
Yeah. It's as there's some we do have some antiquated payment systems and everything like that. We're a heavily based credit society in the United States versus if you look at around the world, they're a lot more about using their debit cards. So what I'm saying, you got to access your debit cards. You got to access those loyalty credit cards or promotions that they have, and much less the foreign currencies. You know what I'm saying? When you look at something, do you really know how much this product costs unless I'm able to convert it in dollars? So offering tools that convert pricing and everything like that makes it easier for a consumer to be able to purchase a product.
If I'm a smaller supplier, is that something I can do? Or is this through vendors? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find vendors to do this. You can add different widgets onto your particular websites and everything like that. I mean, you can just hop onto Google and ask, how do you translate a currency from one to another, and give people a range so they know what it's going to cost. I mean, if you were to tell me something's going to cost me 20,000 yen, I would have no idea what that means. I'd probably hop online to try to say, well, is that expensive? Is that not expensive? Only when I convert it back into the currency that I'm familiar with, now I can benchmark, is this something I want to pay for or not pay for, or how much is it? And especially when you're dealing with, pesos and rupees and the thousands and tens of thousands, what does that really mean in dollars? So for me, it's a good benchmark. And so, yeah, these are added tools that you have at your disposal. It's bridging that communication gap with the consumer to give them the tools they need.
In different cultures, obviously, the value proposition is very different.
Yeah,
like $50 for this might be very expensive to some. And
I mean, if you think of, for example,